Hello again, viewers. You join us here in the Grand Teton National Park. We decided to camp over here off of a forest road. The problem was, as you saw from the other video, that we ended up showing up, of course, on Labor Day weekend. Luckily, towards the second day of our stay, a huge fifth wheel left, so we got this impressive view all to ourselves towards the end. The next morning we woke up, did a bit of solar charging, and then we headed on out. And where did we end up? Well, since we're taking the route back home, pretty close to the same that we did on the way up, we ended up back at Steamboat Springs. This was a pretty wild spot. Plenty of campers. The last time we were here, lots of music, people cutting trees and such. We were here at the back of the lot, though. I'm getting pretty good at getting the van up on these blocks, which keeps us level and gives us just a little bit better of a sleep arrangement at night. From here, we traveled south down Highway 133 and ended up in Redstone, Colorado. We noticed these strange structures from the side of the road and pulled over. Turns out they were old coke ovens used back in the 1800s. Back then, they would take coal and turn it into coke, which was then used in blast furnaces, which would create steel, which made locomotives, steel rails, and barbed wire that helped settle the American West. Just a short drive from the coke ovens in Redstone, Colorado, we ended up at McClure Campground. This was a really nice campground, mainly because it was free. These are some of the better places to find to stop. You're around other campers, it's pretty safe, generally the toilets are nice and clean, and again, it's free. This one had tons of aspen trees, which was super nice. We were able to set up the hammocks, and in the morning, we got a pretty nice surprise of some wildlife as well. And here we are, bright and early in the morning, right outside our campsite. A whole family of mule deer, just kind of trotting by, eating, really not paying much mind to any of us. Pretty nice thing to wake up to, though. And here is a mule deer's rear end. Not for long, though. I'll leave a couple clips here for you guys to enjoy. The next morning, we left our free campsite and headed down to a shortcut, realistically, to Crested Butte. This here was Kebler Pass. It was a forest road, if you can call it a road. Well, yeah, you can drive on it. Lots of potholes, tons of washboard gravel. This becomes a reoccurring theme anytime you're in a national forest. The national forest roads are somewhat well maintained, but washboard gravel is just basically something that becomes second nature when you're driving and dispersed camping in national forests. It's something that we've just come to learn, and now we see our poor little 20-year-old van. He needs a little bit of work, a couple bushings replaced, and it's something that I would advise if somebody was going to do this type of adventure. prep your truck and make sure that it's kind of geared toward this kind of terrain. You know, lots of gravel and tons of vibrations. That goes for half your life that you've packed in your van as well. And here's our spot. As you can see, plenty of aspen trees, which has become our favorite tree. Mainly because we've got some nice new hammocks, and they turn out to be pretty awesome. Nice and close together. Perfect spot. This was just about 15 minutes up Kebler Pass from Crested Butte. Again, nice and free, nice and safe. A little bit of road noise, but altogether, this was a super awesome spot to stop for the night. Next morning, here we are, coming down the hill from our camp spot, almost to Crested Butte. If you have ever messed with cars much and, let's say, gotten rid of squeaks, you'll know that when you fix one thing, you end up hearing the other squeaks. Well, we've got Elmer running good now. As you saw, that tire I just showed looks pretty good. Come over to the driver's side and, ooh, ouch, right there on the left, he's getting chewed up. So, fix the engine, and now I notice that we have an alignment problem. No big deal, he'll get us home safe, but this is just another thing to tack on of the list of things to do and fix before we head out on our trip version 2. Our goal in the end was to reach South Fork that day, but on the way we had to stop at this little, and by little I mean huge, dog park. Here's Inga practicing tunnels, which she hates. She doesn't like putting her head in anything. What she did do well at, though, without training, she's really good at following where you point. So as you can see here, perfect. And even goes to the last step for a perfect dismount. Now, on the other hand, Chewy has about as much brain cells as, well, a twig. So he needs a little bit more guiding and coaxing, but we still love him all the same. And he does pretty well, too. Oh, there's a little falter. Oh, yep, there's this. Yep, you can see the cogs turning. Yep. There we go. And here we are. Beautiful South Fork, Colorado. This was actually the site we spent our second night on the trip. Our first night was spent at a campground. We kind of really didn't know what we were doing, but here we are 3 months in, and we've got a good idea of where to disperse camp and how to do it safely. So we decided to come back to kind of where it all started. We ended up spending a couple days here just enjoying the fact that we were back in Colorado, as for some reason it's really stuck on us. The next morning we woke up and went into town to get some more provisions, which is just there in South Fork. One little store, but plenty well stocked. Some would call Alex a B-52 bomber because that morning she dive bombed health-wise. So decided to let her sleep, and I went to a different spot. This spot seemed a little nicer, nice hammock set up, and nice babbling brook right next to us. So pretty calming area, nice place to just recoup, relax, and get back on track. Of all the places that we've been on this big 3-month trip that we've taken, Colorado for some reason has stuck with us the hardest. Something about being in the summer and being able to be out in the sun and not die of heat has really attracted us. Plus the fact that there are so many national forests and forest roads that camping, dispersed camping, and just enjoying the outdoors is extremely easy. Sad days here at last. Finally needing to head out from Colorado and continue south. But what a pretty good parting gift Colorado gives you. We stopped here at the Wolf Creek Valley Overlook. Had a spot of breakfast before heading down into Pagosa Springs. Decided to get a couple provisions before heading all the way to New Mexico, where we will finish the final leg of our journey and conclude this 3 months that we've been doing. By the way, did I mention that you're constantly covered in bugs? Pretty much you and the van itself. Just before getting to our spot to camp for the night in New Mexico, we just by chance noticed this site to stop at. This was the Echo Amphitheater in New Mexico, of course. We decided to take the trail. It didn't have any no dogs allowed signs, which was fantastic for once. This was a sight to behold. Kind of reminds us of Hamilton Pool back in Austin, but massive. And the echoes through this thing were unbelievable. Well, what you heard just there, folks, was coyotes. You can tell that because of the way they sounded. And with that, we end this week's video. It's a little bit of a shorter one. Next week, we shall be heading further down New Mexico, hopefully hitting Cloudcroft, hitting White Sands National Park, and then we'll head over east towards Big Bend. After that, that'll basically conclude this portion of our trip. If you like what we're creating, we hope you'll follow along. Once we arrive back at home base, we've got big plans for renovating Elmer and getting him prepared for the next journey, which we hope to do this coming season. Bye, y'all.